Mr. Bowtie's Texas High School Sports Machine is driven by Henry Finley and McCombs Ford West, a proud supporter of all area local sports. McCombs Ford West, simply the best. Mr. Bowtie here. Keep banging home that YouTube subscribe button so that way you can stay up to date on all the local coverage not found elsewhere, and follow me on Twitter at Mr. Bowtie 1982. It's fast, it's free, and you'll make my mother proud. Thank you so much and enjoy the show.
The National Football League last week announced 10 new hires to its officiating staff, and as usual, the TASO folks, the Texas Association of Sports Officials, had another alum get hired. They had one work in the conference championship game, AFC title game, Merle Robinson, and now Lo Van Pham looks to be the next one down the road. Lo hired, and Lo Van Pham is joining us from the Amarillo area. Lo, first off, congratulations. Thanks for stopping by.
Oh, thanks for having me on the show, Greg. I really appreciate what you do and what you do for TASO. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. First question, I always ask those new officials is, where were you when you got the phone call? And I guess what was going through your mind when you got that call?
Well, I was at work. I was fairly late in the day. And, what's going through my mind after the call was it didn't really hit me. It was kind of more of a conversational tone with the supervisor that called. And so it was kind of, it was kind of surreal. It didn't really hit me until probably 5 days. It still hasn't hit me yet. So it's kind of, other than, my supportive group, family, friends, and other officials that call says, hey, congratulations. But it's been wonderful since then, Greg. Thank you.
Lo Van Pham moved to the Amarillo area in 1979, was born in Southeast Asia. He actually played high school football at Amarillo Palo Duro High School. Amarillo, known great for its football and its basketball, went to Texas Tech and Colorado, and he eventually officiated in TASO in the early 2000s, moved on to the Big 12, got to work under longtime NFL referee Walt Anderson. And we know the Big 12 has a lot of great football, Lo, and we also know it's a great conference for officiating as well.
Oh, it's exciting football. Obviously, lots of points. The fan base is great. The coaches, the players, great. What they're able to do, the Big 12 on a national landscape. With all those schools from basketball to football, it's a great conference to be a part of. I'm very honored to be a part of that.
We know about a lot of the great high school football on the eastern half of the state, 35 and east, but the Panhandle doesn't necessarily get known a lot for its football, but we know it has great officials. Tell us maybe a little bit about officiating in Amarillo and all those great schools, and obviously probably working a few playoff games here and there.
You're absolutely correct. From a geographical standpoint, we are at a disadvantage. Obviously, the teams in the Metroplex and down in the Houston, Austin area, where some of the big powerhouses are, the 4As, and the 5As, and the 6As are up. But in regards to the Panhandle, we cover a lot of the rural areas, and even though we don't get the big games, obviously the officials in that area, we take our job very serious in terms of trying to go out, on a nightly basis, whether it's Monday night games, with the elementary school kids, or the high school games, 6-man game, where there's a lot of those in the Panhandle. We work very hard. All the guys that I've kind of come up with through the years, we take it seriously. It's a very important game for those kids, for those schools. And so, yeah, we don't take anything away from that. We try to give them the best product that we can. No different than what the Metroplex guys are doing, on a nightly basis.
One thing we know here in Texas is they're always looking for officiating. I know it's something Bill Theodore and Walt Anderson have tried to put a lot of stuff on, but you don't see a lot of former players that will go from the pads to the stripes because they're used to arguing with the officials, and now they become one. What made you transition from your playing days at Palo Duro to wanting to don the stripes?
It's very simple. It's no different from a lot of folks that are involved. I just love the game. Just kind of love being a part of the game, and being around the kids. And it's just a fun hobby to get into. And, with great training around you, I believe that most people can do it. That applies to basketball as well. There's a lot of shortages in officiating in general, not only in the state of Texas, but on a national level. And we have to do something, to help recruit more people to come help, because obviously without officials, it's just recess, right?
You started in the Lone Star Conference, which for folks that only watch Division I ball, the Lone Star Conference in most sports is like the SEC or the ACC in Division I. You were in the Southland, Big 12, the Mountain West. That's a consortium. So you've had a chance to work with a lot of guys who went on to the NFL. Walt Anderson was the director of officiating for a long time. Mike DeFee out of the Beaumont area took over. Now they're both in the NFL. Reggie Smith's in the Big Ten Conference. So what was it like when you got into the Big 12 with all these big names of guys who would go on to the NFL and become extremely major high-end college football officials?
Well, you know what? Everything is just a surprise to me. You know, I always try to get the best that I could be at whatever level I'm at, you know, and whatever the byproduct of that is where, you know, it took me to another level. But I really appreciated, you know, that they took me on and saw something in me that obviously I did not see. I just knew that I just had to work hard and just try to learn from other officials, guys like Eugene Hall, Walt Anderson, guys, you know, Greg Meyer, all those guys, Mike DeFee, Joe Blueball, who's now in the league. Try to emulate those guys, just kind of learn, you know, with those guys and do with that, you know, obviously it helped me in some shape or fashion to be elevated to the next level. And I'm just humble and very, very fortunate to be around, you know, Mike's crew for 7 years and just kind of learn from him, from a game management standpoint and what he's able to teach me.
Knowing Mike DeFee well enough, if you know him, he's oftentimes flashing his muscles, so to speak. Did he ever do that, or did he only do that on television?
Oh no, you know, Mike is just a super guy. You know, he's just in great shape, and you know, we try to you know, do a good job for him because he is the face of our crew, or he was the face of our crew. And you know, it's just when we go out, you know, we have certain expectations, and those expectations are we're going to manage the game, we're going to let him play, and that's what I've kind of taken away from Mike. You know, and like I said, I'm very one of the few people, you know, here in America that had a chance to work with him, and I learned so much from him and his leadership, and from the crew for that matter.
You've spent most of your career as a field judge or a side judge, and that's the deeper wing officials that will work deep down on the sidelines. I think you're coming into the NFL as a side judge. It's kind of a transitioning time with a lot of veterans retiring, including Scott Edwards, who was in the NFL for 23 years, lives not too far from San Antonio. Have you talked to Scott or talked to some of the Texas officials that are in the league? Eugene Hall, who's out of the Metroplex, who's got a perfect record with conference championships and Super Bowls. Have you had a chance to kind of figure out the adjustment that they had to make going from the speed of college to the speed of the pros?
Oh, absolutely. I talked to Eugene Hall just about every, you know, even when I was in college, I would reach out to him quite a bit. Of course, Greg Meyer being out of the Fort Worth chapter, he was one of our trainers in the Big 12. So, yeah, so what they were doing in the Big 12, we as a conference were pretty much following their mechanics. And you mentioned Scott Edwards. I spent some time with him last year at the Titans camp. So, yeah, we've, you know, for us, luckily we follow their mechanics, and so there should be a huge difference. Although there's little things that we're not used to, like illegal contact within that 5-yard belt, that we obviously have to be, you know, to know now. So yeah, I mean, it should be a smooth transition, Greg.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what's the biggest thing you have to do going to the NFL, where things are a lot different than college? NFL is probably a little bit more organized versus college. You're going to get different teams and different conferences that are of different abilities.
Right. Well, some of the biggest two, obviously the ICT is one, and obviously now with the 2 feet, you know, 2 feet with a catch, that's a huge difference between the college game and the NFL game, and little subtle differences with the rule enforcement. You know, they're both fouls in the college game and the NFL are similar, but the enforcement is a little bit different depending on post possession, when does the foul occur, you know, just kind of the little details like that. But yeah, it's should be a fun transition, trying to learn. It's a challenge, and I look forward to those challenges.
Being the fact you're in the Amarillo chapter, it's a chapter I got to see a lot early in my career when I was in West Texas. Got to see a lot of those Permian Basin, Lubbock, Amarillo chapters. And I remember early in my career, about 10, 12, 15 years ago, a young fellow who was very spry and was running around trying to be the best official he can. And it was some guy named Brad Rogers. And I'm fairly certain you and Brad have probably crossed each other's paths at some point in your careers.
Oh, Brad is a great guy. You know, we grew up through the ranks together. Of course, he's down in Lubbock, and you know, through the years we worked, you know, lower level football together. Of course, we were on the same arena football crew together, Arena 2, Arena 1. I mean, it was just a great honor to work with him, to see his progression through the years. You know, of course, he went on to work for Gerald Austin in Conference USA, and we still kept in touch. You know, we try to feed off each other, you know, from a higher level football standpoint. And again, you know, just he's one of my support staff as well. With him being in the league a few years now, I definitely talked to him quite a bit about, the transition and what I've been able to learn with him through the years.
TASO is the only organization, Texas, the only state now that plays NCAA football plays high school football by NCAA rules. How has that helped you and a lot of the other men and women that have been able to transition into college where you're not having to learn federation, where you're not having to learn a whole new rule book when you get to the college level?
I'll tell you what, we come across a lot of officials throughout the country. Obviously, our crew makeup comes from anywhere from West Coast to East Coast, Reggie out of the Big Ten, all those guys, in the Midwest, they just love the fact that we're already using high school rule, NCAA rule, using rules. So yeah, the transition for us is easy. I mean, it's with the exception of, small UIL, Texas exceptions, but overall, it's helped out tremendously. For those other guys that use federation, obviously there's an adjustment factor in there that they have to make up. But again, it's a huge advantage for us, and we kind of go into it just already knowing the rules. We have a leg up on that.
I know a lot of people have mentioned your hiring about being the first Asian American to be hired as an NFL official. We hear all the time about first female official, first African American official back in the day. How do you not worry necessarily about those labels and just let people know that, hey, I was hired because I'm a very good official?
That's what obviously you guys are all about, the media and my family and my friends, but at the end of the day, I just want to go out and just do a good job for the game. My job is to focus on the game. I don't really necessarily care for who's playing in the game, but when we break down, we have responsibilities and we have accountability, right? Whether it's middle school football or high school varsity games or excuse me, college games. And I just go out and just try to do a good job for the game, and for the crew. I really don't worry too much about all those labels that come with it.
Final question. Have they given you your jersey number yet or told you which crew you're going to be on, or do you have to wait until the dark period comes to an end later this month?
I'm not sure. This is all new to me. Greg, that's a great question. But no, I have not been given any information on it yet, but I'm sure it's in the works and it's coming here within the next, few days, maybe a few weeks. So yes, I'm sure that's coming.
Lo Van Pham, one of the 10 rookies in the class of 22 NFL officiating. They will be playoff eligible for the first time in 2023. It'll be interesting to see how things play out. Lo Van Pham, thanks so much for the time and continue to represent TASO and Amarillo and the whole officiating spectrum well. We wish you best wishes in the NFL.
I appreciate your time and thank you for setting us up. Look forward to it. TASO's always treated me so well. And, obviously I'd still get back to the chapter and try to, go to clinics and help train other officials that come behind me in the TASO. So thank you very much for what you do. Appreciate you.